welcome back to Prime Wealth. We're so glad you're joining us today.
Yeah, it's great to have you with us. We've got an exciting topic for you. Today we're diving into something that can really change the way you think about your money.
Absolutely. We're talking about compound interest. You know, the thing that Albert Einstein called the eighth wonder of the world.
Right? It sounds fancy, but it's really just about making your money work for you over time. And it can be a game changer, especially for those of us over 40.
For sure. So we'll break down what compound interest actually is, how it works, and why it's so important, especially when you're planning for retirement.
And we'll also share some practical tips on how to take advantage of it, and maybe even bust a few myths along the way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people underestimate the power of starting early, or even starting now, if you haven't already.
Exactly. It's never too late to start seeing those benefits. So stick around.
All right, let's get into it. What's the first thing we should know about compound interest, Alex? So, Alex, today we're diving into something that feels really crucial for our listeners over 40, and that's compound interest, right?
Absolutely, Jordan. You know, a lot of folks might think, oh, I've heard about compound interest before, but it's especially important at this stage in life.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the idea of saving and investing, it can really change the game, right?
Exactly. I mean, if you start to think about it, compound interest is often called the eighth wonder of the world. It's fascinating how it works, but for folks over 40, it's more than just a catchy phrase.
Right, it really matters right now. So, what do you think is the biggest reason why it's so critical for our audience at this age?
Well, statistically, people are living longer, you know? And retirement isn't just about having enough for the first 10 years. It's about having enough for potentially 20 or 30 years.
Wow, that's a great point. I mean, I've seen studies that say folks retiring today might need to fund 30 years of retirement. And that's a lot of time to cover.
Exactly. And with the rising cost of living, healthcare, housing, you name it, saving enough becomes even more important. If you can harness the power of compound interest now, it can really make a difference.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how big of a difference it can make. Like, let's say someone starts investing just a little bit more in their 40s.
Right? If you invest, say, $5,000 a year and you get an average return of 7% over 20 years, that can grow to over $200,000.
That's incredible! I mean, it's like turning a small seed into this substantial tree over time, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about the money. It's about peace of mind, too. Knowing that your money is working for you, it can really reduce the stress of financial uncertainty in retirement.
I totally get that. I've had friends who worry about their financial future, and you can see how it affects them emotionally.
Yeah, it's a real concern. And for those who are, say, approaching retirement or thinking about it, the clock is ticking. The earlier you start, the better your outcomes will be.
So if someone is, say, 45 right now, they still have time, but they need to act, right?
Definitely. They have time, but every year counts. The earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow. And it's like a snowball effect, right?
Yes, that's a perfect analogy. So if you start small, it can really snowball into something much bigger. I remember my uncle telling me how he started investing in his 30s, and now he's, like, living comfortably in retirement.
That's a great example. And you know, it's not just about the amount you invest, but also the consistency. Even small contributions can lead to big results over time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are intimidated by investing. They think they need a lot of money to start, but that's not always true, right?
Exactly. You can start with whatever you have. Even if it's just $50 a month, if you invest it wisely and let it compound, it can really add up.
And that's important for our listeners who might be feeling like they're behind. It's never too late to start, right?
Exactly. I mean, I've seen people in their 50s who start investing and they're able to turn things around. It's never too late to take control of your financial future.
So what do you think is the emotional impact of understanding compound interest for someone over 40?
Oh, it can be huge. Understanding that your money can work for you gives you a sense of empowerment. It allows you to plan for the future with confidence, knowing that you're building something substantial.
Yeah, and I imagine it can also change how people feel about their jobs or their careers. If they feel secure financially, they might be more willing to take risks or pursue passions.
Exactly. It opens so many doors. When you know you have a financial cushion, you might decide to start that business you've always dreamed of, or even just travel more.
That sounds amazing. So it's not just about numbers. It's about enhancing life and experiences, right?
Absolutely. And it can lead to less stress and more freedom in your choices. You know, it's a big deal when you can see a tangible benefit from your efforts.
Right. So before we dive into some core strategies to leverage compound interest, is there anything else you'd like to add about why it matters right now?
Just that, folks should really take a moment to assess their financial situation, understand where they are, where they want to be, and then start making those small steps toward their goals.
Love that. It's all about taking action, no matter how small. All right, let's get into some practical strategies that can help our listeners harness this amazing power of compound interest. So Alex, today we're diving into something that I think a lot of people, especially those of us over 40, might struggle with: compound interest.
Absolutely, Jordan. It's often called the eighth wonder of the world, you know? It can be a game changer for your finances if you understand it well.
Right. So let's break it down. What's the first thing folks should know about compound interest?
Well, the basic idea is that you earn interest on your initial investment, and then you earn interest on that interest over time. It's like a snowball effect.
Okay, so it's not just about the money you put in, but also the money that money makes, right?
Exactly. So let's say you invest $1,000 at a 5% interest rate. After a year, you'd have, what, $1,050, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. So then next year, you earn interest not just on that initial 1,000, but also on the $50, right?
That's it. So you're actually earning interest on your interest. It compounds. And the longer you leave your money invested, the more pronounced that effect becomes.
So how can someone start harnessing the power of compound interest?
Well, the first step is to start investing early. The earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow.
But what if someone didn't start investing until they were, say, in their 40s?
That's okay. It's never too late to start. You just need to be more strategic. For example, if you start investing in your 40s, consider maximizing your contributions to retirement accounts, like a 401k or an IRA.
Right, and those accounts often have tax advantages too, don't they?
Exactly. That can help your money grow even faster. And don't forget about employer matching if you have a 401k. That's free money.
Wow, yeah! So the more you can put in, the better, right?
Yes. And speaking of putting money in, a good rule of thumb is to aim for at least 15% of your income towards retirement savings. That might sound like a lot, but it can make a significant difference over time.
So if I'm earning $60,000 a year, that would be, what, $9,000 a year?
Exactly. And if you invested that consistently, with an average return of, say, 7% over 30 years, you could end up with a pretty nice nest egg.
Wow, that's a great way to look at it. So what about the actual investments? Should people be looking at stocks, bonds, or something else?
Good question. A diversified portfolio is usually the best approach. You don't want all your eggs in one basket, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. So a mix of stocks for growth and bonds for stability?
Yes. Stocks tend to have higher returns over the long run, while bonds can provide a cushion during market volatility.
And what about risk? How do you balance that?
Well, it depends on your risk tolerance and your time horizon. If you're closer to retirement, you might want to lean more towards bonds. But if you're younger, you can afford to take on more risk with stocks.
Got it. And what about using tools or apps to help with this?
Oh, definitely. There are so many tools out there now. Apps like Betterment or Wealthfront can help you invest wisely and automatically.
Yeah, I've heard of those. They use algorithms to manage your investments, right?
Exactly. They can help you stay on track with your goals without the stress of managing everything yourself.
So let's say someone starts investing and they're on a roll. What's a good habit to develop?
Consistency is key. Set up automatic contributions to your investment accounts. That way, you're investing without even thinking about it.
Right. It's like setting it and forgetting it, but in a good way.
Exactly. And also, regularly review your investments, maybe once or twice a year. You don't want to be completely hands-off, but you also don't want to micromanage,
That makes sense. So just a little check-in every now and then to make sure you're still on track.
Yes. And if you notice something isn't working, don't be afraid to adjust your strategy. Flexibility is important.
All this sounds great, but I can see people might get a bit overwhelmed.
That's totally normal. The important thing is to start small and build your knowledge over time. Every little bit helps.
So, just to recap, start early, automate your savings, diversify your investments, and be consistent.
That's right. And don't forget to keep learning and adjusting as you go along.
Yeah, but there are definitely some pitfalls to watch out for, right?
Absolutely. We'll talk about those next. It's crucial to know what to avoid as you're building your wealth.
So, Alex, we've been talking about the wonders of compound interest, right? But I think it's really important to also discuss, the common pitfalls people face when trying to harness it.
Absolutely, Jordan. I mean, while compound interest can be incredibly powerful, there are definitely some mistakes people often make that can really undermine its benefit.
Right? What do you think is one of the biggest mistakes folks make?
Well, one huge mistake is simply waiting too long to start investing. A lot of people think they have time on their side, especially if they're in their 40s or 50s. But the earlier you start, the more you benefit from compounding.
Yeah, I get that. It's the earlier you plant a seed, the bigger the tree, right? But do you have any examples of this?
Sure. Let's say, you have two friends, Sarah and Mike. Sarah starts investing $200 a month at age 25, and Mike starts the same amount at 45. By the time they're both 65, Sarah has invested $96,000, while Mike has only invested $48,000. But Sarah's money has grown to over $1 million, while Mike's is, around $150,000. It's a huge difference.
Wow, that's a huge gap. It really shows how time can work for you or against you, right?
Exactly. And another common pitfall is not understanding the power of consistent contributions. Some folks think, I'll just make a big investment once and be done with it. But it's the regular, consistent contributions that really build wealth over time.
Yeah, like the tortoise and the hare story, right? Slow and steady wins the race.
Right. And then there's the risk of not adjusting your investments. People can get comfortable with their portfolio and forget to check in on it regularly. The market changes, and so should your strategy.
So it's kind of like if you keep driving the same route every day, but suddenly there's road construction, you need to find a detour.
Exactly. And a common sign of danger here is if you notice your investments aren't keeping up with inflation. If you're not growing, at least at the rate of inflation, then, your purchasing power is actually shrinking.
Oh, I can see how that could be really frustrating. You think you're making progress, but in reality, you're not.
Right, and another mistake I see is people getting too caught up in the hot investment trends. They hear about a new stock or cryptocurrency that everyone's raving about, and they jump in without doing proper research.
Yeah, that FOMO can be intense.
It really can, and it often leads to people buying high and selling low. Remember that story about the GameStop stock? A lot of people jumped in at the peak and ended up losing money when the price fell.
Yikes, that's a tough lesson. So it's important to, stick to your plan and not get swayed by the latest fads?
Exactly. It's about having a strategy that aligns with your goals and sticking to it, even when the market is volatile.
And what about the danger of not having an emergency fund? I think that's a huge one, too.
Oh, definitely. If you don't have a safety net and something unexpected happens, like you lose your job or your car breaks down, you might have to dip into your investments to cover those costs, which can really derail your compounding efforts.
Right. So having that emergency fund is like having a cushion to fall back on so you don't have to touch your investments?
Exactly. And a good rule of thumb is to have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up.
That's super helpful. I think a lot of people also underestimate the impact of fees, right?
Oh, for sure. High fees can eat away at your returns over time. It's crucial to understand what you're paying for. And, look for investment options with lower fees when possible.
So, if someone invests in a mutual fund with a 1% fee versus another one with a 0.5% fee, that can make a huge difference over decades, right?
Exactly. Even just that 0.5% can add up to thousands of dollars lost over the years due to compounding.
And that's something people often overlook, huh?
Yes, definitely. Another pitfall is not diversifying. Putting all your eggs in one basket can be risky.
Like, if you invest everything in one stock and it tanks, that can really hurt.
Exactly. It's about spreading your investments across different asset classes to manage risk.
So how can someone recognize they're in one of these pitfalls? I mean, are there any signs to look out for?
Well, if you're feeling anxious about your investments or if you're constantly checking the market, that could be a sign you need to reassess your strategy. Also, if you're not hitting your financial goals, it's time to take a closer look.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's really about being proactive, right?
Exactly. And if you find yourself in one of these pitfalls, it's never too late to make changes. You can start by reassessing your goals and, consulting with a financial advisor to help get back on track.
Yeah, just because you stumble doesn't mean you can't get back up.
Absolutely. It's all about learning from those mistakes and moving forward.
So for our listeners, if you're feeling a bit lost or maybe you recognize some of these pitfalls in your own financial journey, it's okay. Just take a step back, evaluate your situation, and remember you can always make adjustments.
Exactly. The important thing is to keep learning and stay engaged with your financial health.
And we'll be diving into how to create a solid financial plan in our next episode, so stay tuned for that.
Looking forward to it.
So, Alex, we've talked a lot about compound interest today, and it's super exciting, right? But I think folks are probably wondering, what can they actually do with this information,
Absolutely, Jordan. It's great to understand the concept, but the real magic happens when we put it into action. So let's break it down into some immediate steps that our listeners can take today.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, it feels overwhelming sometimes, but starting small is key, right?
Exactly. So first off, I'd say, if you haven't already, open up a high-yield savings account. They're pretty easy to find these days, and they often offer better interest rates than traditional savings accounts.
That's a great idea. And what if someone's already got a savings account? Should they just switch?
Well, they could consider switching if the rates are significantly better, but sometimes it's as simple as just asking their bank if they offer a high-yield option. Many banks have them now, and it could really boost those savings over time.
Right, every little bit counts, especially with compound interest. What's next?
Well, another step is to start contributing to a retirement account if they aren't already. Like a 401k or an IRA. Even if it's a small amount, that's a great way to take advantage of compound growth.
Oh, totally. And if they can get their employer match, that's like free money, right?
Exactly. It's basically a no-brainer. Even if you can only contribute a little each month, it adds up. And the earlier you start, the more you benefit from compounding.
So what if someone's not sure how to get started with these accounts? I mean, it can feel a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, that's a common feeling. I'd suggest looking into some user-friendly apps, like, for example, Acorns or Betterment. They make investing super simple, even for beginners.
Oh, I've heard of those. They round up your purchases to invest the spare change, right?
Exactly. It's a really hands-off way to start investing. You don't even notice the money leaving your account. But over time, those little bits can grow into something substantial.
That's such a cool idea. And what about people who want to learn more about investing or personal finance? Any book recommendations?
Definitely. The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins is a fantastic read. It really demystifies investing and makes it approachable.
Oh, I love that one. And it's so motivating too, right?
Yes, and another good one is Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin. It's not just about investing, but also about understanding your relationship with money. That can really change how you think about spending and saving.
Those sound great. And I think it's really important to build habits as well, right?
Absolutely. One habit I'd recommend is to set up automatic transfers to your savings or investment accounts. It makes it easy, and you're less tempted to spend that money.
Yes. And even just starting with like a small percentage of your paycheck can make a big difference over time.
For sure. And speaking of habits, keeping track of your expenses can be really eye-opening. You know, apps like Mint or YNAB, You Need a Budget, can help with that.
Oh, I love YNAB. It's so good for setting goals and actually sticking to them.
Exactly. And it really helps you see where your money is going, which can make it easier to find areas to cut back so you can invest more.
So, Alex, let's say someone's just starting out and feels a bit lost. What's one small action they can take today?
I'd say just take a few minutes to create a budget. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just write down your income and your fixed expenses. Then, see how much you can allocate towards savings or investments.
That's a great starting point. And it's something anyone can do, right?
Absolutely. And remember, it's not about making huge changes overnight. It's about building those small, consistent habits that will lead to bigger results over time.
Yeah, so encouraging. And even if they just set aside a little bit each month, it all adds up with compound interest.
Exactly. The key is to start today, even if it's just a small step. You'll be surprised how quickly it can grow.
I love that. So to recap, we've covered some practical steps, tools, and habits that can help our listeners leverage compound interest.
Right. And the best part is that they can start small and build from there. It's all about making progress, not perfection.
Perfectly said, Alex. I hope everyone feels inspired to take these steps and start their journey towards better financial health.
Absolutely, Jordan. And remember, it's never too late to start.
Yeah, so true. All right, folks, we'll be back next time with more practical tips and advice. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Well, Alex, I think we've really unpacked some important ideas today, right?
Absolutely, Jordan. You know, those key takeaways about compound interest being the eighth wonder really stand out, huh?
Yeah, like, first off, the earlier you start saving, the better. I mean, time is definitely on your side when it comes to compounding, right?
Exactly. And also, understanding that it's not just about saving, but investing, that's a huge part of maximizing those returns.
Right. And then there's the whole idea of patience, you know? Compounding takes time, but the rewards can be significant if you stick with it.
For sure. And let's not forget about diversifying your investments. It's essential for managing risk while still allowing for growth.
Yeah, that's a really important point. So if you're over 40 and feeling a little anxious about your financial future, just remember, it's never too late to start taking advantage of compound interest.
Exactly, Jordan. Just take those small steps and you'll be amazed at what can happen over time.
So if you found this episode helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you, especially if you have someone in your life who's 40 or older.
Yes, share this with them. We're all in this together, right?
And don't forget, next time we'll be diving into safe investments for those who are a bit more risk-averse.
That's right. So if you're looking for ways to grow your wealth without taking too much risk, you won't want to miss it.
It's going to be a great conversation for sure.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much. Until next time, take care and keep investing in your future.
Bye for now.
Bye.